Thanks for watching Afternoon Live. The spouse, the house, the kids, the cars, Americans seem to have a pretty good idea of what makes them happy, but our next guest says to think again. Here with a look inside her book, New Happy, Getting Happiness Right in a World That's Got It Wrong, we welcome Stephanie Harrison. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are there some common myths that a lot of us are buying into about happiness and what it really means?
I think you've already named some of them in your introduction. You did a beautiful job. I think we have this idea that happiness comes from achieving these external goals or buying these specific items or kind of checking off a specific item on a to-do list of life. And unfortunately, it doesn't really work like that, even though that's the cultural myth that we've all grown up being taught. And so unfortunately, a lot of people end up pursuing these things, trying to make themselves happy, but it doesn't end up working.
And is there some short-term gain that we feel, I think, about buying something you really wanted, and there's a little bit of a retail high, but in the long run, that doesn't really make my life happier, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think if you think back to, the last thing that you bought thinking, oh, this is going to be the thing that makes me happy, it maybe lasts for a couple minutes or a day if you're lucky, but pretty quickly we habituate to all of these external things that we have. And so it's not really a reliable strategy if we're looking for something more like long-term lasting happiness or contentment, which I really think is what most of us want most in life.
How does somebody like you research happiness? Because it's such an interesting concept, right, that I think a lot of us might define differently.
Yeah, that's really what inspired me to want to study it. I ended up pursuing this field because I was challenged with my own personal happiness. I really couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do in order to live a happy life. I ended up going to graduate school at the University of Pennsylvania to study what's called positive psychology. And that's really the scientific study of what makes people feel fulfilled and whole and excited about their lives. And ultimately, what I discovered is that we have all of this amazing research that tells us what is most helpful for pursuing a happy life. But a lot of it doesn't really trickle down to the rest of us and to the general population. And that's become my mission to help give people the science and the tools that they can apply in their lives.
Yeah, are there certain things that you found that are some good go-tos that really do bring us happiness and lasting joy in our lives?
I think one of the things that's most surprising is that if you want to be happy, one of the very best things that you can do is to try to help somebody else to be happy. Helping others is one of the most reliable ways to not only increase your joy in the moment, but also to have that joy last, unlike a purchase, as we were talking about. So going out and helping someone can increase your well-being for up to a month after. And not only that, it contributes to cultivating these long-lasting, healthy relationships, which multiple studies have found are the single most important factor for living a good life. And so generally when I'm having a tough day or feeling a little bit frustrated, my go-to strategy is always to see who I can go out and help. And I always feel better after, and I always know that I'm working towards a life that's more purposeful and meaningful because of that.
It makes a lot of sense, and we've been following and speaking about the wildfires in Los Angeles and thinking about all of the community that's really rallied to help out as best they can. I imagine those connections that they're making are going to be so beneficial in the long run too.
Absolutely. I'm here in LA actually, and I have been just absolutely blown away watching how people have shown up to help and support one another, and how in such a difficult and painful time they know that they're not alone. And this is also what's most protective against things like trauma and mental health challenges, is having somebody who's there to support you in your most difficult moments. And so essentially helping other people is the sort of secret to everything that we want in life. But because it goes against those cultural stories we've been taught and those values that are really kind of a big part of our culture, we have to challenge that and really talk a little bit about how this shift outward can have such a big impact on the inside for each of us.
Yeah, when you mentioned earlier having a tough day and thinking about reaching out instead of just sitting in that bad feeling, I think that's probably the hardest part for a lot of people, right? Getting over that hump of getting outside of your own thoughts and reaching out to somebody who could use that help.
It is. It can be, it's sort of like we have an instinct or a habit that we've developed where it's a lot easier when we're feeling a difficult feeling to want to just stay and linger in it, right? If you're feeling sad or angry or lonely, there's no activating force that tells you to go out and do something different. And that's why we have to build it almost as a muscle. So now what I've started to do is when I'm experiencing one of those emotions, I give myself a chance to just validate it and say, it's okay to feel sad or angry or frustrated right now. And then think, okay, what's one small thing that I can do to help somebody else? And what that does is it allows us to both treat ourselves with compassion, but also to go out and practice compassion for others. And that really strengthens both the relationship with ourselves and with the people around us.
Yeah, got to exercise that muscle any way you can. Hey, Stephanie, thanks for joining us. We're so glad to hear that you're safe.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Okay, Stephanie's book again is New Happy, and we'll have more information on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.